everybody. Starting off with the reflection, the most challenging part of this experience, I think for me, has just been the expectations of my particular site. I was at a inpatient rehab hospital for my 2A, and inpatient rehab can be kind of challenging because we have to see clients for usually 45 to 90 minutes in back-to-back sessions, and the documentation can be really in-depth. And trying to, plan interventions, deal with time management, having that documentation done in an efficient manner has been really challenging for me. On top of that, we're also working with clients who typically have a lot of physical deficits, multiple medical problems going on, as well as some cognitive needs. So I think that's been the biggest challenge, is just dealing with the expectations of the site, trying to keep up with it and all that. I think another big thing for me has just been the transition from the classroom to being out in the field. I think it's just very different when you go from learning things every day to suddenly having to actually perform like an OT every day, and, trying to deal with, learning new things and having the energy to keep going and keep doing it every day has been just kind of challenging for me. But I think the most rewarding part of this experience for me has just been, getting to see clients improve as the result of your interventions. I typically get to see clients for about 2 to 3 weeks on average, and, I see them like 5 days a week, and, you slowly get to see them get stronger, move up in assist levels, just be able to do more things for themselves. And, on top of that, like, a lot of them have been really kind and have like actually thanked me at the end of their time there and thanked me for everything that I did. And that's just a really rewarding experience to feel like you really did something for somebody and you got to see them improve. If I was to repeat this experience, I think something I would do differently would, I think, just have a little more grace with myself, and give myself some room to make mistakes. This fieldwork has been challenging for me, and I think at times I was really, really hard on myself. And I think if I had just been a little more nicer to myself and just accepted that I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, I'm a student, it's a learning process, I think that would have helped my mindset from the beginning. I also would have made it more of a goal to try to make my documentation faster and more efficient from the beginning, because that wound up being a really big barrier for me. So in the future, I would have just tried to address that problem earlier on, so that I could have increased my caseload faster and just been faster in general with everything that I needed to do. When it comes to the OT process, I feel like I've kind of mastered is the intervention process. At this point, I feel pretty comfortable choosing interventions that can use the tools we have at the OT gym there, that are appropriate for the client and will help address their deficits. But along those lines, I think something I'm still struggling with is, kind of figuring out the whole like upgrading and downgrading. It's really challenging for me to like think in the moment sometimes. And I've had sessions where I thought the intervention was going to be a great idea, the client was going to enjoy it, it was going to be good for them, and it wound up being, way too challenging, or they didn't want to participate, and I had to like totally rethink my plan. And that's still very challenging for me. I think as far as unique experiences, something I experienced a couple weeks ago, which I wasn't expecting, was I was working with this client for I think about a week, and he was doing pretty well, but he was still having some balance issues. They weren't really sure what was causing it, but he was slowly moving up the assist levels, slowly getting stronger and more sturdy, but he decided that he just really wanted to go home. He didn't want to be there anymore. And even though, he wasn't really independent with anything, we had to basically just let him go home. And that was very surprising to me. I wasn't expecting it. I literally had like one more session with him, and it was a family training, and I had to just basically do my best to be like, this is how safe we can make your home environment for you, with where you're at right now. And I had to be honest about, it's really not safe for you to do things on your own yet. And we did try to encourage him to stay longer, but at the end of the day, he really wanted to go home, and he didn't want to be there, and there was nothing that we could do. And I think that was really challenging because, most of the clients I discharge, they're pretty independent, and I feel pretty comfortable with them going home. But that was a situation I was not expecting. But I tried to do the best I could with it. Looking forward, what are you most excited about for your level 2B? So I am in a skilled nursing facility for my level 2B, and a lot of the OTs at my current site have told me that it will be easier than this site, but they said like a lot of the skills I've learned I will carry over, and I'm kind of excited for that because I'm hoping that I will feel a little more confident going into this one. It seems like it's probably going to be a lot of the same population, typically kind of older adults, dealing with things like heart surgery, spinal surgery, fractures, cardiac issues, strokes, neurological issues, all those things. So I think the population will be very similar, but I'm kind of excited to also see like just a different change of pace. From what I can tell, I think the skilled nursing facility is not as rigid in their scheduling, so I'm just looking forward to kind of a different setting. And then moving on to talking about clinical reasoning skills, I definitely feel like they have really improved. If I think back to my first week, I think I've really done a better job of like choosing appropriate transfers, choosing the appropriate DME or tools to use. I think I've just been getting better at choosing the right interventions, and the level of difficulty for those interventions. I think, something that kind of made me aware that my clinical reasoning needs a little more work is, I was working with a client who had some balance issues, and it was during the eval, and I had him transfer into a tilt and space chair because after I had him stand up, I felt like his balance was just not good. So I said, let's have you transfer into a tilt and space chair. That way it's just less moving around in general. That would be the safest option. And it turns out that the tilt and space chair actually made him really anxious and really nervous because it just kind of moves kind of differently, and it was just very awkward to move around, and that wound up not really being the best option for him. And the next day I tried a tub bench, and that worked a lot better, and he was a lot more comfortable. So I think it just taught me in that moment, like, sometimes you have to really consider a client's psychological state as well as their physical deficits, because, that matters as well in, how comfortable they're going to feel, especially if, they're anxious and they need some reassurance. So that was a good learning experience. If there's any thing I'd like to say for encouragement, I'd say, something I've really learned about myself is that it's really important to recognize the things you do well on field work as well as the areas of growth. I think I'm definitely really bad about really honing in on all the things I need to work on and feeling like I'm not good enough. And I think, taking time to really recognize all the stuff you have done well and the things you are improving on is really important, because I think it really helps build your confidence. And that would be my advice for all of us as we go into our level 2B. We got this.